Wow.
Y'all should really hear the conversations we have before the tape starts to roll. And once you hear those conversations, you'll understand why sometimes we be like at a loss for words. So since she can't find the words right now, I'm going to see if I can take over for the moment until she, regains her composure. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. My name is Kedar Griffo. This is Dr. Brenda Bronner, and we welcome you back to Bring Love Back. This is a show where we've dedicated to trying to foster love, rekindle love within the community, to permeate within the society, and try to exercise the feelings, the good vibes, the emotional connections with one another that we used to have in yesteryear. So with that introduction, we're going to see if we're ready now to move forward with our show, Bring Love Back, with your host, Dr. Brenda Bronner.
No, I'm not ready yet. Go on.
Oh, you're not ready?
No,
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can't discuss what we were discussing because that's not the topic of the show, but I think what we're going to discuss today is the difference between thinking and meditation. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I don't think you did a lot of thinking before we started that conversation before airing. You didn't think?
Okay.
Or meditate on it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for opening.
Sure.
So, you want to tell us, give us your brief on the differences between thinking and meditating?
That's kind of hard. There is a difference, obviously. Meditation, of course, is sitting in silence, clearing your thoughts, totally wiping away your thoughts, and just sitting in the stillness and allowing the inner you to come forward and speak and to tell you certain things. Or on the opposing side, thought or thinking is your ability to try to come up with concepts, ideas, different things to try to motivate you to do certain things, and utilize your mind for those particular aspects. So to me, there's a huge difference between meditation and thinking. But as a listening audience, I'm sure you have your own views as well. So we're going to see what Dr. Bronner has to say, and hopefully you guys will give us feedback to let us know how you feel about our definitions.
And I will give you my concept on that in just 1 second. My concept, my ideologies about thinking and meditating, I do a lot of, I think I do more thinking. I'm always trying to put something together, fix it, or going deeper into something or someone else. But the meditating side, I'm learning to really do that more. I'm trying to master that more because that means I have to be calm. That forces me to be quiet. It forces me to do an intra, right? Go inside of myself. And I used to get sleepy when I would start doing that.
Right.
And I didn't understand that. But I think I figured it out just for me, because you have to figure out some things for yourself, right? But when I would go inside of me, I didn't find anything exciting. I used to think that's what I was looking for. I used to think that's what meditation was. When they would tell me, learn to go inside you. But because I'm type A, personality,
Right.
like, okay, it's boring in there. I'd rather come back out here.
Right.
I don't know if that ever happened to you. You're so disciplined.
No, it's not that I'm necessarily disciplined. It's just that I've learned, or I am learning, to separate those things that are physical from those things which are spiritual and mental. So I focus more on the task at hand. When I'm dealing with physical things, I totally go 100% into physical things. When I'm trying to deal with the spiritual aspect of who I am, then I try to go 100, well, not try to, I go 100% into doing that. So, learning and understanding the benefits of meditation has afforded me the opportunity to understand it more and to go deeper and deeper and to actually let it take its course. Again, as we were saying last week, Jesus chastised the lawmakers because they prevented the people from going inside.
Right.
So,
Right. And to me, that's another form of well, this is just me, terrorism in a way. When you actually go out of your way to stop someone from going,
right.
meditating and finding that calm and that peace on the inside of themselves. I think that's another form of terrorism because you're afraid to really go in there, and we need to go within ourselves
Correct.
to find out who we are so we can know what we need to do to love ourselves even more.
Right. I definitely agree because of when you look at, you have individuals in your lives who prevent you from going inside. And back in when Jesus explained that it was the lawyers, which was just the lawgivers at that day and time. But now you have family members, you have co-workers, you have friends, you have just people out in the street that prevent you from having that peace within yourself.
Right.
And then so you have to take it upon yourself to say, Satan, get behind thee. You know what I mean? And get him out of your head and out of your way so you can have that peace. So you're right. So you can get back to having that love of self and that appreciation for self.
And when you were talking about there are different people, different groups that can stop you from going on the inside, I liked when you said that we have to take responsibility to say, Satan, get thee behind me. Now, I noticed you didn't say we're supposed to tell that other person that and call them that. So, because even Jesus had to say it to Peter, remember?
He did. You're right.
You got to go.
You're
So
right.
we can do exactly the same thing. But I found out that a lot of people with this going into themselves and the self-love, it's hard for them to really find out. I guess that's a good way to put it. Find out if there's just one good thing about themselves.
I think a lot of this goes back to the effects of slavery or the kidnapping that has happened, where we were taught to hate our hair, taught to hate our dark skin, taught to hate our lips, our eyes, our nose, the way we talk, what we eat, the way we walk, etc. I mean, the audacity of these folk to tell us that we don't speak great English when they're the ones who taught us English. I mean, we wasn't illiterate. We just had a different language than what they spoke, but now they want to say that we don't speak proper English. Go figure. So once we connect with the divine inside and understand that when we look at our image, we're looking at the image of God. And if we love God like we say we do, as the greatest commandment says, to love God with your heart, your soul, your mind, your whole being. And if you can love God and you're made in the image of God, then you should be able to love yourself. But because we've allowed the media to take precedence over our God inside, then we start to look at the images that are put on TV that tell us that if your skin is darker than a paper bag, if your hair is not straight, then you're not pretty. And I think we have to dismiss those images and that programming from our psyche in order to begin to love ourselves.
And see, that goes back to meditation for me. As soon as we get off work or as soon as we come in the house, we grab the remote control. As soon as we get in our car, it's thump, 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 thump. I don't care what it is, no matter where we go. I remember when I was in Vegas. Now, I went to Vegas to do ministry, and I did do ministry. There were people that I did. And it was fun. It was good over there. But I noticed every place you went, there were slot machines. So it's again back to the programming of the mind. And whenever we would go back to our hotel rooms, And I used to enjoy going back to my room, whenever I traveled, because it was peace and it was tranquility. It was quiet. In Vegas, I went to my room. Where are my shoes? What's next? Oh, we got to go do this. We got to do that. So it's the programming of the mind. And sometimes it goes back to accountability. It goes back to taking, charge for yourself.
Right. You use if you notice, she kept using the word programming, because that's exactly what the TVs do. They said, watch this television program. If you listen to the radio, you have programmers. So they're programming you to, again, not love yourself. They're putting the music into you to make you not love yourself. I think that goes back into last week's show where we said, the frequencies of the music, the tones, the vibrations, incited a certain energy inside of us that made us do things that we weren't accustomed to doing. And so as you said, it's the programming that is happening with these listen to the words, because it's in the phonetics. Tell lies visually, television. So they're telling lies to your vision, and then they're programming it, and then they're channeling it into you. The same thing with the radios.
But can we actually cut that out?
Cut the TV off.
Okay. Now, I know of some parents who raise their children without a TV in the home. And I wonder how effective was that after the kids graduated from high school and from college?
It's unfortunately because we interact with people that are programmed. So then they're going to take what has been they've ingested this programming, and so it has shaped their mentalities, and then they take that mentality on and put it on other children. So if in my household I was the fair-skinned man with the good hair, then I feel superior to the dark-skinned man who has kingly hair, what they call kinky hair, kingly hair, and then I'm going to go to school and I'm going to say, well, you're ugly because your hair is this, and so even though I protected my child from the programming through the television, the people that my child are around, even at work or, like I said, at home or in the neighborhood, they still have to deal with the programming.
That's true.
So you have to build your children up and build yourself up to love yourself. And again, when you realize in the first chapter of the Bible, it speaks of God making man in his image and after his likeness. So how could you love God, who you've never seen, when he's in your image, but then when you look in your image, you don't love yourself?
Exactly.
So.
And I was there for a long time as well, and it was a struggle for me to come out of it. And ironic, I end up, mentoring and doing the same thing now to help people to actually see the God in them, the good in them, the Christ in them, the love in them. And, we just, got past Resurrection Day, celebrating, as I said before, Easter is just one day out of the year, okay? But resurrection is every day. Every time we wake up, we resurrect.
That's correct.
Every time we change a thought, even in watching this show and what all, Dr. Griffo gives out, because he pours into me as well when we're even not, doing television. But even with that, there are a lot of resurrections that I've had just in conversations with him. So we can, and that's back to being that God, being the Christ that's on the inside of us, resurrecting each other, resurrecting, different family members, and bringing us back to life.
Right. Yeah.
Because, as you were talking, I was thinking about that because I was a program director for 4 years at the radio station, right? And I'm sitting here feeling guilty, right? I'm going through all this, so I'm going to need to meditate when this is over. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, my goodness, But you're absolutely correct. But, oh, my goodness, it's a lot. And that's what's so good, too, because God gives us an opportunity to create these shows, to create we're creating this together as he gives it to us. Because, as you know, we don't rehearse or
Right. It's not scripted. Yeah.
It is not at all. Sometimes it should be because of him, but I can keep up with him though. He's good. I can keep up with him. Now I want to ask you a question. As far as you can tell with males, do you think males do they have more of an advantage in seeing who they are because they're the heads and they're supposed to be leaders of the families?
Well, see, that used to be the reality, I think. The society was all about men being in charge, women submit yourselves to your husbands, da 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 da. But this new energy that has permeated the planet now, where you're seeing women being presidents, women being prime ministers, women leading companies, women doing everything. I think black women are like one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing entrepreneurs. Women are leading, and men, on the other hand, are in some instances, it looks like we're falling behind. So I don't see it that way where men are leading anymore. Now, of course, we can go back to the 70s or late 60s where, the government, right when we was coming out of the so-called civil rights era, and the government had a concerted effort to separate the man from the woman with, this feminist movement. And, in order for the woman to get support from the government, she had to say farewell to her man. To get welfare, she had to say farewell. Right. And we see that, and women have taken that baton, regardless of how that divide happened, and they've ran with it. Of course, we can look at the whole crack epidemic that was forced in our neighborhoods and see how that incarcerated a lot of men, and it destroyed the black family as well. But I still say that women were destined to come back to being those leaders that they were always designed to be. The first teacher for all of us was a woman.
Okay.
So I see it as, I don't see it as the man leading alone. I see it as the women leading in some instances, and I see it that the man leads in some instances. I think it's about who is greater in that role. Because I, for one, if the Tin Man ever gets a heart, then if my wife if she pays the bills better and she manages the money better, then here's a check. I'm not gonna, because I'm the man, and beat my chest, and then I'm bouncing checks and the bills are not getting paid and I'm not managing the money right, then that's chaos. So I'm going to let her lead in that which she's greater at. If I'm a better cook and I like to cook, then let me cook.
Took the words right out of Dorothy's mouth, because I was about to say Dorothy feels this way. If he can cook, cook on, honey.
Yeah. I think traditional roles are being smashed and destroyed.
Right,
with
but
this
it was
new
coming
era.
together. See, when the scenario you just painted, that was coming together. That's called, to me, is creating.
Right.
Creating your home, creating your atmosphere, creating your environment. And therefore, with that kind of atmosphere, what you just said, there is room for what? Meditation.
Right.
There's room for meditation, because oftentimes when we're cooking or whatever it is we're doing our own thing, then that's a time when you can meditate or think or whatever.
It is.
It's therapy.
It sure
See,
is.
they call it therapy.
I would say that. I would always say that whenever I would cook, I'm like, sometimes cooking is therapeutic.
It is.
You know what I mean? And when the person that's cooking your food is putting the love, and they're feeling the love in the household, then you're gonna feel it through the food. It'll be more.
Right.
It'll be more nourishment. And so when I accept my role, and that's not the role as being the head, but just accept my role, and she accepts her role, and there's cohesiveness, and there's a yin and yang, a flow to it. Then the house is more peaceful. So then you're right. You can meditate in that what you need to meditate in. I can meditate in that which I need to meditate in, and the household flows smoothly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. Sometimes we have questions in regards to the meditation, thinking, and couples. Of course, everything about love, it seems it comes back to romance. And boy, romance. With the scene you just created as well, I could see where a husband and wife, they can actually meditate together without the sexual.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So even with the intimacy, that includes and involves meditation.
Right.
Because
Agreed.
oftentimes when you're meditating, you're actually meditating on something that's good, something positive, something that's uphill, something that, that's going to be great and good, for everybody.
Right.
But it begins first with yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Going back into the intra, a lot of times we talk about enter, but what about intra, I-N-T-R-A?
Right.
Going in within this way.
Again, I think a lot of our energies are directed outwardly as opposed to inwardly. And once we flip the switch and turn it inwardly, then we have much more success as individuals. And then when I love myself, when I'm content and happy with myself, then I will be able to in turn love you the way you need to be loved, or you love me the way I needed to be loved, based off of the fact that I'm content and happy with myself. But if I'm not happy with myself, if I don't have that love of myself, then I can no way possibly treat you like the person you should be treated.
Okay, so it's not always the other person.
No.
That's initiating, the other person that's starting whatever. Right. It still begins on the inside.
Right.
So if you don't love you,
right,
how could you possibly love me?
There's no way.
So is it cool, somebody says, I love you, and then you turn around, instead of saying I love you back, do you say, well, do you love yourself?
I've never said that, but I think I need to. And I think you can look at some people, and after just talking to them for a period of time, you can feel whether or not they love themselves.
Exactly.
And when you understand that, and you can okay, all right, I know how I need to proceed based off of the fact of whether or not they love themselves and whether or not they can properly love me. You can look at your child immediately, and because your child looks like you, there's an immediate love for your child. But you still might not always love yourself for some strange reason.
That's right.
Because again, I feel you don't love your features. You don't love how you look, the way you look, and being acceptance of that.
Right.
We've heard of people, short men, having a Napoleon complex. It's you have to be content with how you were brought into the world, and I'm going to say I'm really, really close to 6 feet, but I still have a complex that I'm not over 6 feet, because society has taught us that you have to be a 6 foot man, at least a 6 foot man. That's part of that programming, when the original people on the planet were short, like 5 feet and shorter. Okay. So I don't know where these tall people come from. Maybe those little fallen angels that that they talked about. But anyway.
See, I've always had a complex about my freckles. And everybody else just loves my freckles.
It's different, it's unique. The majority of us, all of our freckles are so close together you can't see them. So yours are kind of spread out, but all
don't point it out to everybody. But I get past it or whatever. But that was another thing. Now I'm gonna switch tracks here for a moment. When God called me to pastor, to actually start ministering to the public, do you know one of the things that really got to me about that? I didn't mind giving the word. I didn't mind helping people because I was already doing that. But I felt I didn't have a deep, dark past
to be redeemed from.
Yeah, because everybody they either had been shot 5 times and found in the ditch. Wait a minute, and been on drugs since they were, I almost said 3. Well, in the 3rd grade. and they, climbed out the windows at home and
But see, and when I say some of us, I'm not saying some of us as preachers. I'm just saying some of us as individuals did not have to go through those trials and tribulations to make us understand that we need to worship the God within. So some of those individuals needed that rough lifestyle to be able to minister to those individuals who had shared the same lifestyle. But not all of us shared that lifestyle. So with you not having a closet full of skeletons, you could relate to people that didn't have a closet full of skeletons. I can't. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Well, I was real nervous about that. I kept arguing with the Lord. I was like, I didn't do this. I don't even know how to smoke weed. So I just went through a whole host of things. It can't be you. It couldn't be you. And that's that thing where people say, well, have you been tried through the fire and all
Right.
that, And so it just goes all around,
Because Job was an upstanding man that God called him to do what he did, but Job didn't have any skeletons.
No.
So
No. But Job did have one issue. He feared all the things he had that they would be gone, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so there's that fear. So it seems like fear, no matter what realm we're in, fear just seems to crop its little ugly head up all the
Right.
time. And yet and still, the word tells us that God didn't give us that
Fear.
spirit
That's right.
of fear.
That's right.
He did not, but of love.
But that's where that programming comes in, because we'll do what? We'll watch a scary movie. And
Did you see Get Out?
yes, loved it.
Okay, see, you messed up the whole show. You weren't supposed to say that
Oh,
part.
I
at the
wasn't
end.
supposed to say I loved it. I just said I loved it. I didn't say what happened. I just said I loved it.
Welcome back to Bring Love Back. I'm Dr. Bronner, and this is the Tin Man. Come on, give your name. I'm going to let you do it.
Kedar.
Okay. Well, Brenda. And as you can see, we've had a guest to join us, a very nice young lady, very special young lady in my life. We haven't known each other very long, but Miss Shyreeta Davis, would you like to say hi to our viewers?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so happy to have you to join in with us. We were already talking about Bring Love Back. As I told you before, Bring Love Back is about bringing love back to ourselves, back to our communities, and so we can help each other. First, help ourselves, and then build our families, build our communities, neighborhoods, and then, just take it abroad. And
Awesome.
what I know of you, the little that I do know of you, you have a lot of love inside of you, a lot to give.
Yes.
But you have a special gift, and I think your gift really helps with our show and our theme in bringing love back. So she is a recording artist, everyone.
Yes.
Give us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself.
Yes.
Well, I am a Bloomington, Illinois native. Born and raised there. Moved around a little bit, so I've got to see a little bit of the world. I won't say a lot. Come into contact with a lot of people, and usually like to inspire everybody that I meet, whether that's saying a kind word or giving them some inspiration, or helping them babysit their children, or buying their kids clothes, just anything that pours into people, specifically women and children. I have a big heart for women, especially battered women, women with low self-esteem, and that just have been through a lot of family issues. And so I get a joy out of rebuilding what the enemy has tried to break down in their life through the anointing that God has given me to touch their lives, and just to be an example of, you're not what you go through.
Okay, I love that. Right, you're not what you go through. I'm not, thank God. 'Cause I've
Hallelujah.
gone through a lot, still going through a lot, and everybody does. Correct.
Yes.
We all do.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, why do you think that you're so geared towards battered women and abused women, broken down families, I guess? Why do you feel that that's your area rather
Well,
than fashions or whatever?
oh, okay. Well, I would say more so just growing up without my biological father being in my life. That was the first man that ever broke my heart and pretty much abandoned me. And so from that, watching kids grow up in the neighborhood, especially little girls, and they have their dad and they have their mom, and they're like, oh, my dad's getting off work, and da 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 da, and oh, this is not my stepdad, that's my real dad. And it's just kind of like, well, I got a stepdad, it's okay, but you know, my real dad, he only really lives about 30 minutes away, and I never see him. And so that's kind of how I started as a child to see the separation of division of families and different things like that. And my mom did her best to shield me. She was a great mother, took me to church and all of that. And that's how I got into, you know, wanting to sing for God. And so, which made other people gravitate to me. I'm this little kid, 4 years old, like, oh, I get to do a solo. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then I've got my grandmother who's yelling from the pew, that's my baby. That's my baby. And so kind of got popular with all of the kids and the adults. And just I was a very, I would say, intellectual child. I wanted to know why they're praying. Okay, why is she crying right now? Well, what did the pastor say? Like, you know, at the age of 4 and 5, I was just very inquisitive. And every time something would happen at home, or I'd have an experience where something was very happy with my family, I'd go back to church and say, oh my gosh, this happened to my mom. And I was so excited. And they would just show me off at church. And pretty much that got me over my fear of being around people and, you know, being quiet and meek and all of that. And so that's why I'm very outspoken. So I was able to touch a lot of lives from a very early age. And I guess to piggyback off of what you're saying, like what kind of got me with the battered and broken women, I myself went through some batterness when I was 6. I was raped as a child by a family member. So, of course, that's going to cause much division. And this same person just continued to do it to a lot of the young girls in our family, and we all were kind of like finding out at the same time, and it was kind of, oh, you too, and you know. So at that point, having that happen so early and growing up and carrying that burden that whole time, every time I would see a man abuse a woman, I would say, oh my gosh, that's not right. I remember that, what that feels like for somebody to take advantage of you. I remember that lonely place of, you know, trying to explain to people exactly what happened, and nobody, it's not that people don't believe you, it's just if you're not there, you don't really know the magnitude. And, you know, people alter stories and different things like that. But I was the one that always believed the woman, because I would just always look into her spirit and try to look into her heart and say, you know, ask God for the discernment to see what she actually was going through. And sometimes he would say, oh, she's a little much. She's exaggerating a little much. She's trying to get some money, but, you know. But at the end of the day, I still gave out of the abundance of my heart, because I knew that God had his hands over their situation, and that it was not my responsibility to be the judgment at that time. So that is how I started gaining that love. And I just started talking to women everywhere I went, and it just kind of became a ministry for me. And God eventually told me, like, okay, well, you have the gift of evangelism. It's not going to be like you're, you know, in a church necessarily. It's going to be, you know, out in the highways. It may be at a shopping center. It may be, you know, at a basketball game, but they're going to see your heart. They're going to see my anointing on your life, and they're going to be gravitated towards you. So pretty much God sent them to me. He sends them to me. And sometimes I've been like, okay, Lord, now right now I got to get this dinner. And he say, nope, you got to minister to her right now. You know. Sorry.
Oh, don't, you're fine. You're fine. No, that was just a lot, you know, and my heart just bleeds, you know.
Mine did as well. And you hear this story time and time and time again. And there really is a really big problem with pedophilia and rape in the black community that needs to be addressed.
Definitely.
It really, really needs to be addressed.
Definitely.
And who does it?
Who addresses it, or
Yes.
we all have to collectively.
I agree.
Because we don't talk about it in the
No, right,
churches,
right.
if you think
No,
about
you're right.
it.
You're right. We sure don't.
So, and I noticed you were saying, it sounds like she was getting her identity, really from the church,
Right.
in the church. Did you talk with anyone in your family about this?
I did, and I talked to my mother. I did actually get to talk to the relative's mother also, but all I could say was, he hurt me. I didn't know how to explain any type of sexual act. I didn't know how to say this specifically happened. This is
Right.
because I didn't know what that was. I just knew that grown-ups did this kind of thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible how grown-up feels. In my mind, I'm like, oh Lord, why does my mom like this? That's where my head went as a child. But when your mom has her door closed because you have company over, and I've always shared rooms with my brothers, and they've never done anything to me. My brothers were sweet. I could jump on my brother's lap and kiss him on the forehead and just feel safe in their arms. And it wasn't until I had a lot of cousins to spend the night, and it never happened. But this one particular cousin, he just raised the bar for everybody, and pretty much I would say I was screaming for my mom, but as an adult, when you have a stepfather and it's not your real father, you have your door closed, just courtesy for your child in
Right.
case, your stepfather may be undressed. You see your dad, it's still inappropriate, but it's like, oh, that's my dad. But, as a child, I didn't know the difference between my stepfather and my real dad. So with that being said, I did try to scream for my mom. I couldn't get the words out. I couldn't scream. I was just in excruciating pain. And when I did tell them, he tried to do it again the next day. And this time my brother, being in 5th grade, he actually got out the shower really fast, and all the adults were gone. I think they might have went to, so nobody knew that I was raped all night long. They had not a clue that it had happened. So it wasn't until they all came home after the second time he tried to. But I tell you, my brother in 5th grade, he took the fastest shower of his life. I was trying to go to the bathroom, and he said, no, I'm a boy, you can't go, And I'm like, but why? So I sat in front of that door, and then here comes that relative, and he says, come here. And I just like, oh my gosh, this again. And so I went. I mean, I'm 6. I'm like, he's going to beat me up. I don't know what he's going to do next. I better go. But my brother came out of that shower, and when I tell you, before he could proceed to even throw me on the bed, my brother saw him just touch me a pinch, and he said, what are you doing to my sister? And my brother just started wailing on him and wailing on him. And I just was like, get him, get him. So I actually did get a little bit of victory, but I didn't realize how much it was going to damage me through my walk for the rest of my life. And for 30 years, I carried that. And I did tell my uncle, I did tell the aunt. The aunt actually just found out this year. I thought my uncle maybe had told her, but he did not. And they gave him a spanking after I said he hurt me. I remember my mom spanking him. I remember my aunt spanking him. But, I still couldn't say, well, he did this all night long, and it was like this all night. I couldn't explain it in detail. But now, as I started growing up, I started sharing with the other family members, and they're like, you too? Even with men as well. He tried to do it with men as well, and I guess everybody that he tried it with, I guess they were too afraid to say something at that point. Right. He was just known for it.
So because I've heard that a lot of people that commit these heinous crimes were themselves victims of the same type of thing that they inflicted. Do you know whether or not this individual was ever molested as well?
That I don't know, because just even going back to the home where I lived in, I love that house. And I recently just got to go back when I was visiting in Illinois, and there's a African man that lives there, and I just knocked on the door after I recorded my song, where I tell my story, and he opens the door, and I said, sir, can I pay you just a little money? I just want to come in your house. I used to live here, and then I had a tragedy happen. I just want to tell my story. Do you mind? And he said, "Oh, come on in, and my family's from such and such Africa, and my name is such and such." And I said, "I just need to go see that room." And so I opened the door, and I just couldn't walk in the room. I thought I would be like, "Oh, okay, it's been 30 years," but I walked into. I cracked the door, and I was explaining to the people, "Hey, this is where my tragedy happened at." And I tried to go in, and I just couldn't. And I just closed the door back, and I said, "Well, Lord, at least I faced it." I came back to the house, and I will say that to say, all of those years, you don't know if somebody's been abused, because sometimes they won't admit it because they're ashamed.
Right.
That's true.
And they feel like, this is who I am. Obviously, if I feel this way, this is who I am. That's how predators feel. They feel like it's normal.
Right.
They have to feed it. They get hungry.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that, sometimes it's not done to them. Sometimes it's just a spirit on them.
Okay.
Where they get very experimental. And, you never know. Sometimes the culprit is TV.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you may have seen something inappropriate on TV or
Program, right?
Yeah, right. Have you had any counseling?
I did not get any counseling. I would tell certain family members throughout the years, "Hey, has he tried this?" or investigate. And I didn't. I just went to church, and I just kept praying. And I remember at the age of 21, coming down the stairs in my mom's home. I was in college at that time. And he came over, obviously, and my mom and my mom and my aunt, sometimes they don't remember the incident happening, because I remember I couldn't tell details then. But as I got older, and he was saying, "Oh, Aunt Lily, do you think I could crash here for the night?" And I came down those stairs so fast, and I said, "No, you cannot," and you know why. And he didn't say anything, and he ended up leaving, and so then I carried it another few years. Like, it brought back the wound. Like, you have the audacity.
Right.
When nobody really knows exactly what happened but you and I. Not even the brother that saved my life the next day. He didn't know until this year when I released the song, which it comes out tomorrow. And so no counseling. It did actually, and I guess I have to be really transparent right now. What it did to me was, because I didn't have counseling, it kind of sent the spirit of perversion, where, like, I was young and I was noticing, going to the YMCA, in the locker room, like, "Oh my gosh, do people walk around like this? Oh my goodness, like, this is crazy. These ladies, like, do they not see that we're kids in here? Like, this is..." And then it's just like you get a little confused, like, you start feeling different things as a kid, and you're not understanding why. Like, my mind is not even on that, but why are these feelings festering? And so, of course, that causes other things, and the devil to just have that playground in your mind. And so I just carried it, I guess you want to say, and I never got the counseling, but I tried to tell as many people as I could. And I guess when you're not there, you really don't know, and they don't believe you, or they say, "Wow, did that really happen?" And it makes you feel small.
Right.
True. Or invisible. Because I've met a lot of other young ladies that they just feel like zero.
Yeah,
if
their
they didn't
self-worth.
get it. Yeah. So back to, just, and I'm listening, and you had shared just a little with me earlier. And that was one of the reasons I thought about.
It's amazing, the conversation we was having before she got here.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it just fits right in. But, this is why we feel it's so important that we actually do this show.
Right.
To help us, everyone, to really focus on how God strengthens us and gives us the wisdom and the love to want to have the desire to bring love back. So this is someone that has lived without real love, but was introduced to lust.
Yes, I would say that, but I had real love.
No, I mean from your first encounter.
Oh, yes.
From that.
Yes.
From that. Not just no
Your
real
family.
love.
I had a
period.
loving
Yeah.
family. That's why I was surprised that he was able to get away with this so long. Because, you know, my brothers, they grew up in you know, we all started off in church, but eventually they went into the gang life and different things like that. And you would think like, oh my gosh, like, ooh, they beat them up now, you know. But it's like, how many times do you want to tell your story throughout the years?
Right.
And it just kind of was like, okay, well, he's still running around. He's got 10 kids now, unstable, can't keep a job. And to make matters worse, now he's dating someone on my biological father's side of the family. And I've heard they've been together for 5 years and they're going to get married and he's going to be at the family reunion. It's just going to be great. And, but I'm still going because I'm free. I have a saying, it hurts, but I'm free. And then I said to myself, it doesn't hurt because I'm free. So I said that to myself over and over again. And I just finally started ministering to myself. And that's how I was able to write the song. And it wasn't until I wrote the song that I was able to release myself from the bondage.
I still feel, and I'm sure you the things that you're doing in the song has been very therapeutic.
Yes.
But I still would suggest, if you can afford it, or you know, if you get the time to sit down and talk to some professionals to help you continue to move forward with your healing.
Yes.
You know, and I would say that to any of the young ladies or young men that have suffered the way this young lady has suffered, to seek counseling. Talk to family members. If they don't believe you, talk to students. Teachers, clergy members.
Definitely.
Anybody in an authoritative position that you feel will assist you with helping you get the assistance that you need. Because, I'm in awe of your story. It's tragic, but, you've turned into, you seem like, your life is on the up and up. You're a beautiful lady. You know what I'm saying? Your spirit is beautiful. So it's great, but I don't know if everybody will have that bounce back ability that you have.
It took a lot. I did pray and cry, and I prayed and cried, and it made me not trust men.
Right.
It made me be very standoffish. Sometimes it made me, when I had a boyfriend, it kind of was like, as soon as I seen any kind of sign of any kind of abuse, I was like, oh my gosh, But overall, I would say the image would come to my mind. The image is still there in my head. I can't forget it.
Right.
It came to my mind at every day of my life after the event. So I probably should have had counseling.
Yeah. But it's never too late.
It's never too late.
Right.
And I probably will seek that and, throw some other stuff in there too. But I just thank God for preserving me, most of all. Yeah. And I feel like, well, God, why was I able to carry it so long and not lose my mind? Some people commit suicide, and some people, they go and start doing this to other people, but I didn't want to do this to other people. What I wanted to do was stop people from doing this to other people. So when cousins would share things, I would say, did you tell your mom? Did you tell your brother? Tell his name too. A lot of times victims try to protect their offenders, because they don't want to feel like, well, I'm the only one that came forward, and I know there's like 30 of us, but I'm the only one that came forward. So you feel like you're targeted, like, what makes me so different that I can come forward, but they can't. And so it's a really hard thing. I can't say it's anything easy to go through. Right. But I would definitely agree with what he said as far as needing the counseling, because it can help you in your journey to, to just recover, regardless of how strong you think you are. You're right. It's never too late to better yourself, and there may be some additional healing that I know I'm missing out on.
So as you're listening to her story, like I said, she's sounding like she's making a strong, very good recovery. But, remember, this is something that has happened and has been happening, and it will continue to happen until we put an end to it. And we won't know if you don't say.
Yeah.
So we need you to speak up.
Speak up.
As hard as it is, and I'm sure, you telling your story is extremely hard, but we need to put an end to this. This is killing and destroying our families, which definitely keeps us from bringing love back, if I can throw that cheap plug there on a very serious subject. But we really need you to stand up, and if you can't talk to your family members, you can reach us at 770-940-7148, or you can send an email to info@blbtoday.com. And if you need us to step forward and be your confidant, your spokesperson, whatever, please do not hesitate to contact us. I'm sorry, young lady.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, look at that. You guys already have a way. I wish I had that back in 1980 something.
And see, there are a lot of other women and guys too, because guys are molested too.
Absolutely.
That's actually thinking the exact same thing too. I do want to add something to this with the counseling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're real quick to want to counsel other people out of our own pain, but we fail to really
work on the inside of us. Absolutely.
Because we now don't feel like we're that worthy or that loved.
Right.
Yes.
So it comes back to bringing love back to yourself, because we've talked a little bit, we pretty much spent the day together, and these kinds of things oftentimes makes us make different decisions than what we would normally make.
Absolutely.
And then we end up attaching ourselves or letting other things attach themselves to us, just like a magnet.
Yeah.
Just like a magnet, and it's a continuous thing that happens to us, So that counseling would definitely, benefit you. And I'm sure of that. I know where you can get counseling at least up until Thursday. Okay.
And as well as, once you get the counseling, and and it further assists you in your recovery, you will be able to pass that in. The same way you're ministering to individuals now, you'll be able to also minister to them in the fact that how much counseling possibly help you get, to an even better place.
Well, I would love that. I actually did reach out to counselors since I've been in Atlanta, Georgia. They had the sliding scales. If you guys don't know what that means, it basically means they go by your income. They try to make it low cost as possible for you to be able to afford it due to your financial situation. But a lot of the counselors that I reached out to, some were $150 an hour. Some were $75 an hour. Some were Christian counselors. Some were not. But one common thing that they all had in common is that they never, how can I say this? They never followed up. And that was probably the thing that hurt me the worst, is that I was reaching out. I mean, I spent all day, I literally typed in counselors, I actually dissected all of the different counselors. I wanted to see what was their expertise, and so I did all of that. But basically, I couldn't find the right counselor. When they would do their phone interview, I had some of the counselors there in the elevator trying to take a call, trying to see what I needed. And it was just kind of, a lot of it was unprofessionalism. And so it turned me off from wanting the counseling. And then I had been, I would say, emotionally and verbally abused in the church while working in ministry. And so then that reminds me again, so I couldn't get the counseling, back at home in Illinois, because I had experienced such bad church hurt, which kind of reminded me back to when I had that 6-year-old, pain. So I tried. I gave it a good run.
He's not condemning you.
Right. No,
but I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is I tried numerous of times. So that's going to happen, people out there. You're going to keep trying. Don't give up.
Because for some of you who have, you work for the right employer, they do have counseling services that they will provide for you. So
Exactly.
make sure, if you can't talk to us, then talk to the, see if your employer has a counselor that you could go through and utilize. But we want to hear her song, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go over anyway, so we're good.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Just before, did you want to still do your song?
Sure.
Okay. There was something you said about the song. You went back to the house, went back to the place where it actually occurred, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you got your inspiration from?
No, I actually wrote the song prior to going to the house. I recorded the song, and then I actually, right after the recording session, I told my business partner, hey, let's just drive past the house. And the guy was standing out there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I just recorded the song. So I recorded the song first. I recorded it back in, I wrote it back in December, but I didn't record it until March. And I would just say this, I stood in the mirror one day and I just started talking to myself. Like, how did this really make you feel? And how can I tell my story without it being so derogatory and, giving full details? And then God just gave it to me. He said, just write it, baby. I just write. I just kept hearing God say, just write it. Just write it down. And so I began to write, and I scribbled out. And I said, ooh, I can't say that. And I write it again and scribble it out. But anyways, God gave me the way to arrange it. I mean, when I tell you God was all in my business with this song, and he said, and as a matter of fact, yep, you can go ahead and put me in there too so the people can know how you came out, so I can get all the glory for helping you get through this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. My heart is full, so we're going to let you sing your song. Okay. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us tonight on Bring Love Back. I'm Dr. Brenda Bronner.
And I'm the Tin Man.
And I'm Dorothy, okay? One day they're going to end. They're going to get to Oz, okay? We love you and we've enjoyed you so much. And make sure, if you want to be a part of our shows or if you want to get in touch with us and you need any kind of assistance in any way, please feel free to call 770-940-7148. Or you may email us at info@blbtoday.com.
Thank you. Have a good night. No, like I'm supposed to sip and drink.
Oh, okay. All right, we're going to close out our beautiful show just for you by presenting to you Miss Shyreeta Davis. And she has a beautiful song that's coming out tomorrow. And the name of the song is A Piece of Me.